Hi, I'm Deanna Stockwell. I'm from Cerritos, California. And for my outdoor experience, I marched Impulse 2012 to 2014, BDB 2015 to 2016, and BD 2017. And then for BCP, I marched 2016 to 2019. And I'm looking forward to going inside the shot with Russ.
Hi everyone, Russ here, bringing you the next edition of Inside the Shot. And in this part of the series, we're featuring some of marching music superstars from the West Coast. Southern California is a hotbed of accomplished percussionists, and I'm thrilled today to be introducing you to a four-time world champion. She plays bass one for the Concord Blue Devils and for Southern California's WGI Broken CIty Drumline. She's a highly sought-after visual artist and is featured in many of their productions. Welcome to Inside the Shot, Deanna Stockwell.
Thank you.
So Deanna, I met Deanna in kind of a strange way. Actually, I meet a lot of performers in this way, especially in Winter Drumline. You're sitting in the stands with all the other fans, and there's all these parents with their cameras. And there was a lady and a man sitting there, and I was asking them, hey, who are you here to cheer for? And they told me, oh, our daughters play in Drumline, and one of them is performing next, and her name is Deanna. And they showed me who she was. And ever since that day, I've been hooked on this performer because she's such a passionate person out on the field. She's amazing to watch. So Deanna, welcome to the show. And let's start going inside the shots. I think this is the show that I was talking about. This is where I first met Deanna, and her mom was showing me. And all of a sudden, this bass drummer starts jumping around in the air. And I don't know, that's the first time I'd really seen something like that. Normally, bass drummers are not nearly as athletic as you are. Tell us about that show, what it was about. What year was that?
That was 2018. But I just remember that when I did that jump, it kind of felt like that uplifting feeling of physically being in the air. It's kind of the same as the uplifting feeling of how I feel when I'm performing, whether it's on the floor or in the lot. And so I feel like it's definitely a unique experience getting to perform where you feel on top of this world, just like how I physically am jumping in the show. And it's just something that I love to do, even though I can't do it anymore, unfortunately. But
I think one of the fun things about meeting Deanna is on the video, you see this kind of quiet, meek young lady, but on the floor, this girl is a beast. I love watching her perform. So let's take a look at shot number 2. Yeah. In this shot, this is my first exposure to Deanna on the drum corps field. And because I had seen her Winter Drumline, and she is such the accomplished visual artist, I don't know if you ever noticed, but when you watch the Blue Devils march, they have a different speed. And in the midst of all of this is this 5-foot bass drummer running around the field. It's amazing. I love that. And I just put the camera on her, and I took so many shots that year of her. Tell us about that show. That was a great show too.
yeah, I really love the Metamorph year. It was also the 60th anniversary from BD. And even though I was only able to participate in BD for 1 year, I'm absolutely grateful that I got to experience such a unique moment in history with BD. And especially because it was my dream for years. And I think the most unique thing is that I remember I was inspired by people like Nicole or Amanda, Naomi, or Stephanie, who were in the BD drumline in years past. And being able to fill in those shoes and inspire other kids, it was definitely a fulfilling moment for me. And it felt really nice.
No, that was a great show, and it was a lot of fun taking pictures of you there. Let's go to the next shot. Yeah, this to me is the exact depiction of what Deanna Stockwell is really all about. When you look at the story of this shot, the Blue Devils for many, many years has been a dominant force in drumline, in drum corps. And look at those guys. They're all tall, perfectly conditioned, and then the line drops off to 5-foot Deanna Stockwell. And the message to me is, this lady can hang with anybody. Tell us about that.
I definitely agree with Russell. Just because I'm tiny doesn't mean I can't have big performance energy. And even though sometimes it's a little difficult marching wise, being on the short end because we have shorter legs, that doesn't mean that we still can't perform to 100 or 110% on the field or indoor floor.
Yeah, that was a great show. And I was in the right place at the right moment to get that angle of that drum line. Wasn't that the year that everybody in the battery played snare drum at one time?
Yeah, there were 16 snare drums where the quads and bass drums were in the line as well.
16 snare drummers.
Yeah.
That's got to be thunderous. I must have been deaf after that show. Deanna, you had mentioned Stephanie and Nicole Casino, who are pioneering percussionists for the Blue Devils. What was it like being a female on that battery that year?
I will admit that during the audition process, it was really intimidating. It's a very male-dominant community, and so even during auditions, there weren't many females who were auditioning, and the BD audition process alone is very difficult, both mentally and physically, playing-wise or visual. I remember they would do these down the lines, and to prepare for it, I would actually try to perform in front of my friends because I would kind of be a bit anxious because of all. And in addition to the stress, I mean, even when making the line, I was the only female in the line that year. And so sometimes it does get a little bit lonely because you don't really have any girls that you can relate to. But I think it's really cool how nowadays more and more girls are starting to pursue drumming, even though it is male dominant. But I think it's unique that more women are trying to break that stereotype. And so I'm really glad that just like how Naomi and all of these other girls inspired me in the BD drumline or any other drumline, really, I'm really glad that I can inspire other women as well.
Okay, let's go on to the next shot. Okay, this shot is probably my favorite shot of Deanna. It's iconic to me, and from an artistic standpoint, there is so much symbolism going on in this shot, and so much that Deanna was personally involved with in this performance and in this particular show. I love this. I see it in my mind all the time. Deanna, could you kind of go through all of these different symbolisms and the role that you played at the end of the show?
Yeah, I'd love to. So at the end of the show, there was a music box. And interesting thing, I was actually playing the music box live. There was a microphone attached at the bottom. And so during that whole entire time, I was actually playing the music box live because it feels more authentic versus just having a sample play it. And for the symbolism, the music box kind of has this childlike ambience where it's supposed to represent the innocence of childhood, because when you're young, you don't have to worry about this, conflict or strife. I mean, worst case scenario, you probably have a fight on the playground, and that's the worst thing that could happen for most kids. But that cage is kind of like you're preserving that innocence or kind of putting up those walls. And so throughout the show, it's about two people fighting each other to the point where you eventually forget what you're even fighting about. That's why there's the phrase of giving in represented throughout the show. And so by taking out that music box, you're showing that vulnerability and you're allowing that person to win, because you don't want casualties or other people that you love to get hurt in the process of that battle. And that's why I'm playing the music box on one side, kind of representing the mental aspect, but then the actual pain and casualties from that battle are actually on the right side, which is everybody kind of piling on the floor. So definitely a deep show.
It was very deep. It was so deep, and it was so well executed that it earned you a world championship that night, right?
Yeah, highest score in WGI history. I was amazed. I was just grateful to perform on the floor in general, because I remember I was injured less than a week before that performance. I was actually in a wheelchair on prelims, so I was just extremely grateful.
Yeah, I know that it's a little painful for you to talk about, because it was essentially the end of that part of your career, and really transcended into the next year, where you were forced to sit out the last season of what would have been your age out with the Blue Devils. And I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but I think that it very much stands for what Deanna Stockwell is all about. For those of you that were lucky enough to be in Dayton that year, when Broken CIty came to the floor in the prelims, One of the first people out onto the mat was Deanna's father pushing a wheelchair onto the floor. And Deanna sat there, and I could just, because I know her, I know what she was thinking, right? She was thinking, there's only one thing that's going to prevent me from being on the floor with my squad today. And I'm not dead, so I'm going. I was very proud of you that day.
Thank you.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, both in 2018 and 2019, those were both really difficult years for me because I absolutely love performing. And, you know, with both of my injuries, it's like everything changed overnight, literally in a snap, whether it was like my leg or in time. But no matter what, I wanted to make sure that I could try to push through whatever was going on physically or mentally, emotionally, and just go out on the floor because I just absolutely love performing, no matter what state I was in. Sometimes people aren't quite happy with what happens to you, and so they think about how they're hurting, but not necessarily how others are hurting. And so, kind of like the show, I kind of sucked it up and just kind of let other people win because I didn't want their marching experience to be ruined. Kind of suffered in silence. But that's okay because other people loved their season. And the fact that my injury, I tried not to let it ruin other people's season as much as I did. You know, I'm grateful for that because I care a lot about the people that I march with. It's like a family. And it definitely, both injuries showed who are truly there for me. And so even though it was a negative thing that happened in my life, something my dad always tells me is don't let events define you, you define the events. And I'm just grateful that I had so many loving people that supported me through this both times.
I want to thank Deanna Stockwell for sharing her incredible drum corps and drumline journey with us this afternoon. As you can see from her responses to the pictures, she's one of the most accomplished visual artists I've ever seen on the field and on the mat. So, Deanna, thanks for spending some time with us today, and I hope you had a lot of fun.
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed being here with you guys today and getting to share my story of my marching career. It was really nice to get to share with you guys since it was so special to me. So thank you guys for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my experiences.